Hello everyone, my name is Zach. I am the Traveling Man and I'm just concluding a 6-day voyage on board Royal Caribbean's Enchantment of the Seas. It's our last sea day. It's actually about 4 p.m. in the afternoon, so the cruise is basically over. We have just one evening left. But I wanted to give you some of my thoughts on this cruise in this full cruise review. I'm going to do a full ship review, and I'll be quite honest with you just right up front here. I did not have high expectations coming into this cruise. Enchantment of the Seas is the third oldest ship in the Royal Caribbean fleet. The ship debuted back in 1997, so it's about 25 years old. That's old for a cruise ship, and this old gal's been around the world. Millions of people have sailed on this ship. We started the cruise in Baltimore and have sailed out to Bermuda and are now on our way back to Baltimore, and I have a lot to tell you. There were some surprises along the way, and I think you're going to want to hear about it. So this is my full cruise and ship review of Royal Caribbean's Enchantment of the Seas. So like I said, a 6-day voyage, leaving Baltimore out to Bermuda, my first time to Bermuda, and also my first time on one of these smaller Royal Caribbean ships. Now, I've sailed on Royal Caribbean a few times before, but I think the oldest ship I've been on of Royals is the Adventure of the Seas. So only on newer vessels. This is the first time I've been on one of their older ships. I didn't have high hopes that this was going to be a particularly great cruise. It was a budget cruise, the cheapest cruise that I've ever booked and ever taken in my life. And I was just like, okay, it'll be a cruise. It'll be something to get on. It'll take me to Bermuda, right? It's transportation to get to Bermuda, an opportunity to be there for a few days. So that was sort of the mind frame that I went into this cruise with. However, I was pleasantly surprised. So surprised, in fact, by this cruise that I couldn't wait to record this video. I've been looking forward to doing this ship and cruise review video all week because I want to tell you all how great the Enchantment of the Seas has been and why you should book a cruise on this vessel while you still can. So if you've never watched one of my cruise review videos before, I actually have a process that I go through in order to review a cruise ship, just to make sure I do so fairly and I'm reviewing everything through the same lens, all the cruise ships, and hopefully that'll provide a good comparison for you of this ship versus that ship as I go on and put out these reviews. So this is called my steps process, and there are 5 steps. The first step we'll go over is the ship itself. I'll rank and tell you all about the Enchantment of the Seas. T, or taste, which is food, of course. This will be in a very abbreviated talk about food. I will have a food review, a full food review of all the meals I had on board. I'll tell you about all the restaurants and all the dining venues in another video, but we'll talk about a little bit of it today, sort of the Cliff Notes version of it per se. The E is for entertainment, and we'll definitely need to talk about that. P is about ports, or the itinerary, so yeah, we'll talk about Bermuda a little bit. And then the S is for service, or the crew, and wow, we're definitely going to need to talk about that. And we'll start with the S, the ship itself, and wow, I was pleasantly surprised. The ship is old, like I said, 1997, it's 25 years old, so it is a very dated ship. There are obvious signs of rust and wear all around the ship. So if you're looking for a modern cruise ship, if you've been on Royal Caribbean before, maybe you've been on one of the big brand new cruise ships, this is not going to be exactly like that. Do come knowing that this cruise ship is an old cruise ship. However, it perfectly encapsulates classic cruising. So if you cruised in the 90s or the 2000s, that classic cruise vibe, this is the ship for you. Enchantment of the Seas is a wonderful cruise ship. It's a beautiful cruise ship. I mean, you gotta sometimes look past the very dated aesthetic inside, and some of the decor is very dated. A lot of the upholstery on the furniture is very dated. In fact, I'm sitting in my stateroom right now and there is velvet on these walls, y'all. There's a mirror back there, there's mirrors here, there's mirrors there. It's old, it's like the 90s decor, right? But it is a great ship otherwise. They kept it in great shape. There's beautiful art all around the ship. The dining room was beautiful. The theater, I loved the Orpheum Theater here on board the ship. It's probably one of the best theaters on one of these older cruise ships that I've ever seen. The Chops Grill, you'll go in Chops Grill. I went there a couple times for dining. We'll talk about that here in just a minute. Chops Grill's definitely been updated a little bit. It felt a little bit more modern. I love the 5th deck. They have the promenade deck, the deck that goes all the way around the ship, or all the way around like the middle of the ship all the way around the back of the ship. I love to go out there and walk. That is just my favorite. I love that they had that. I love the aft view off the back of the ship. You can look and see the wake. The pool deck is amazing. Now, the Enchantment of the Seas has been refurbished quite extensively. Back in the early 2000s, they actually cut the ship in half and added a new block of ships. So this ship's a little bit larger than some of her sister ships. So when you go out on the pool deck, you actually see the cool little arches, the bridges that they have. those are actually the areas, the very top of the area where they added onto the cruise ship. And I really love those arches. When I first saw it, it looked kind of weird, honestly, when I saw pictures of this ship. But being here, it's so beautiful, especially at night. So I can't say enough good things about Enchantment of the Seas. I was pleasantly surprised because I expected to come on here and it just be full of rust and it be like, wow, this is in disrepair, like it's in very bad shape. But that's not what I experienced. This ship has been very well kept up. Again, if you can look past some of the decor in some of the areas and look past the fact that she is 25 years old, this is a great ship. Now, the ship itself is currently sailing out of Baltimore, and she will sail out of Baltimore until the spring of 2023, and at that time she'll do a transatlantic over to Europe, and she's actually going to be sailing itineraries in Europe next spring and summer. And then after that, I think they might be taking her to the West Coast to do some Alaska. I think Vision of the Seas is coming to Baltimore to replace Enchantment of the Seas. So a lot of opportunities for you to get on this ship and to sell her, and I highly recommend that you do because she's been a fantastic ship. Well, hello, it is Later Zach here, and I'm breaking in just to say that I actually forgot to talk about the internet. And I did want to mention the internet because the VOOM is what they call the internet on Royal Caribbean, and they bill it as the fastest internet at sea, and that was absolutely true here on Enchantment of the Seas. I was surprised how fast the internet was because it is an old ship. I figured that the internet infrastructure just wouldn't be that great, but the internet was spectacular. In fact, out of my 20 cruises, this was the cruise with the best internet. I mean, it was lightning fast. So as far as my rating for the ship, out of a total of 5 stars, I would have to give Enchantment of the Seas a 3.5. Now, if it were just totally up to me, I probably would have given it a solid 4. However, I do realize to a lot of people, when you come on a cruise ship that's this old, it might be kind of shocking, especially if you're an avid cruiser and you've sailed a lot of cruise ships. Like I said, the decor is quite loud because it's so old. And in full transparency, I wanted to give it a 3.5 and take off some of the points there because the ship is so old, but a solid 3.5. And I think she's still a great ship to cruise on. In fact, before I came on the cruise, I did something that I normally don't do. I normally don't allow myself to read reviews. I don't watch other videos that other people put out of the ship. I like to form my own opinions. And just one day I happened to be looking up pictures of the ship and I saw a review. Someone had said this ship should be scrapped, and there were a couple of other people who had the same opinion there on the thread I was reading. People were like, scrap the ship, it's too old or whatever. I don't see that. I think this ship, we need more ships like this on the ocean today, because there are people who enjoy this type of classic cruise experience. There's no water park on board. There's no thrill attractions on board. It's just classic cruising at its finest. So 3.5 out of 5 stars for the Enchantment of the Seas. So next up is our T for taste. And like I said, this is going to be an abbreviated highlight of the food. There are quite a few food options on board here. Of course, there's the classic Windjammer, which is the buffet here on board this ship. And I was actually pleasantly surprised by the Windjammer, because normally buffets, especially on a cruise ship, are quite hit or miss. But the buffet was actually pretty good every time I went there. I would go there sometimes in the mornings and get some breakfast. They had some oatmeal and some fruit I would grab. A couple nights I went there after dinner, because I did try to eat mostly healthy on this cruise, but some nights I'd still be pretty hungry after dinner because I only ate like fruit and a piece of fish for dinner. And I would go and look. They had butter chicken as one of the options on the buffet, and that was the best butter chicken I've eaten in my entire life. So they had really good food on the buffet. I really enjoyed all the food that I had on the Windjammer. The only thing confusing about the Windjammer on this ship is that it is located in the very front of the ship on the pool deck on deck 9. And typically you find the cruise ship buffets in the after the ship on the pool deck. So on the first day, if you're coming on Enchantment of the Seas and you're like, where's the Windjammer? It's in the front of the ship as opposed to being in the back of the ship. All the food that I had in the main dining room was good as well. The service was very good in the main dining room. The waiters are very attentive. I usually always get the My Time or Select Dining, the time when you can just go whenever you want to. They did encourage that reservations be made ahead of you coming to the dining room, so reservations filled up pretty quickly. But all the nights I went without a reservation, I was almost immediately sat at a table. And I always get a table just by myself. So essentially a 2-top table for just one person. And they were always able to accommodate me very quickly. But all the food I had in the main dining room was good. I can't really complain about anything. I also tried specialty dining at Chops Grill. And Chops Grill, again, was pretty good. I will say I don't think Chops Grill is my favorite specialty dining experience. This is the second or third time that I've gone to Chops Grill, and I think I've come to the conclusion I'm just not a big fan of Chops Grill on Royal Caribbean. But that's nothing to do with Enchantment of the Seas. I think that's just my thought of the dining venue as a whole. So this morning, as I was thinking about this review and what I was going to say about food, I was thinking, yeah, nothing was bad, but I really can't say anything was extraordinary either. But then that changed at lunch, because at lunch I did the Taste of Royal. This is a specialty lunch. It costs $35 per person plus gratuity, which is 18%. And it's held in Chops Grill. And this essentially is samplings of food from all around Royal's fleet. So the appetizer was from Wonderland. They had another entree there from Giovanni's Table. The main was from Chops, which is on this ship. And then they had stuff from 150 Park Central. Now, 150 Park Central, Giovanni's Table, and Wonderland are not on Enchantment of the Seas, but this was an opportunity to experience those dishes on Enchantment of the Seas. And that was really good. That's probably the best meal I've ever had on Royal Caribbean ship. So that's the highlight for me. All the food that I had in the Taste of Royal lunch was absolutely the highlight of the cruise. Now, it was a specialty dining experience, but I was looking for something to highlight as the best food I had all cruise, and then it happened at lunch today. So for taste or food around Enchantment of the Seas, I will give that a solid 4 out of 5 rating. So next up is E, and E of course is for entertainment, and there was lots of entertainment to be found around the ship. I feel like that the cruise director and his staff did a fantastic job of planning activities. Now of course this cruise we spent 3 days with solid 2 nights just parked in Bermuda, so of course folks were off the ship and coming and going. So I think they purposefully planned for fewer events on overnights when you're an overnight at port, because they know so many folks are probably off doing other things in Bermuda or whatever port you happen to be in that day. But there was essentially something happening in the main theater, the Orpheum Theater, each night. They also had Latin Flavor, which is the like house band essentially on board here. They had them in the Centrum each night, which is the main atrium on board, and they were fantastic, and they kept the party going. Every time I walked through the Centrum or stopped there to hear some music, they were playing. There were people out on the dance floor dancing, and it was just an incredible time. They also had game shows quite often in the Centrum, especially on sea days. It was like all day there was something going on there in the atrium. And then I also noticed that they had Zumba classes, they had Pilates a couple of days. So always something going on. In fact, one of the days we were parked in Bermuda, I actually walked through the Schooner Bar, I think when I was filming my ship tour video, and they were actually doing trivia in there. So always something going on around the ship to keep you entertained. So I will just briefly tell you each night in the main theater what was on, just so you have an idea. The first night was the Welcome Aboard show, so the cruise director came out and talked a few minutes about the cruise and what we could expect entertainment-wise throughout the cruise. He then brought out the comedian for the cruise, and the comedian performed for about 20 or 30 minutes set. The second night of the cruise was Elegant Evening on Board, and this night featured a magician in the main theater, and he was actually really good. I enjoyed seeing him. This magician was from the UK, and he'd actually performed for the Queen before. So that was really interesting, and I really enjoyed his show. The third night was one of the nights that we were parked in Bermuda, and we had the comedian again, and he performed 2 shows at 7:15 and 9:30, and he was great. Night 4 was another night we were in Bermuda, and they featured movies in the main theater, so you could go in. They had a big screen on stage, and I think they showed 2 different movies that night. And then the 5th night of the cruise was the famous Love and Marriage show. Of course, everyone likes the Love and Marriage show. People either like to just go watch, and some people like to volunteer to go up and be in the show, but it was a really good show. The cruise director did a fantastic job of hosting it. And then tonight, the last night of the cruise, they're actually going to have the only production stage show of the entire cruise. And this is because their production cast actually signed off last cruise, so I think they have a brand new cast of production show crew members on this cruise, and they've been practicing and rehearsing on cruise so that they could do a production for us tonight. So not a lot of production shows in the theater, tonight, only one night of them, but they did have some type of entertainment in the main theater every night, and it was entertaining. So I will give entertainment a 3.5 out of 5 stars. The P is for ports or itinerary, and this itinerary was simple. So we left Baltimore, and the next day we had a sea day. The third day we had a half sea day, and about 3 o'clock in the afternoon we arrived in Bermuda. And once we were in Bermuda, we had 2 overnights, and on the 5th day of the cruise we departed Bermuda, and now here we are on the 6th day of the cruise on our last sea day on our way back to Baltimore. And I think this is a great itinerary. It gives you a couple of sea days to relax. I always love a sea day right up front on an itinerary. I think once you board a ship, you have an afternoon to explore, have a nice dinner, go to a show, wake up the next morning, you're out at sea. I love to wake up and be at sea, and I love it when the first day of a cruise is at sea. And also, this is my first time being in a port for 2 nights. I've been on an overnight on certain itineraries before, but never 2 nights in a row. So that was actually pretty cool, especially for an island like Bermuda. Now, Bermuda is kind of secluded away further north in the Atlantic than the Caribbean islands, or the Bahamas even. So it's a good sea day and a half from the Bahamas, from Florida, from the east coast of the United States. So usually when cruise ships go to visit, especially those from, you know, say New York or Baltimore or Boston, somewhere like that, they're just going to go park there for a couple days and then return back to their home port. They don't have time to go to the Bahamas and stuff on a week-long itinerary. So this was a unique itinerary, and one of the reasons why I booked this itinerary, because I'd never been to Bermuda before. But having 3 days parked in port gave me plenty of time to go out and explore. I was able to go off on a tour and see quite a bit of the island. I was able to explore the immediate port area, or the Royal Navy dockyard there at King's Wharf. And I will have a full video of everything I saw and did in Bermuda coming out very soon. And in that video, I'll show you some of the highlights around the island, and I will show you, if you just want to get off in port and explore the port area, so many things to do in the port area, and I'll show you all those in that video. So make sure that you subscribe and be on the lookout for that video coming very soon. But I can't complain about the itinerary or the ports, and I will give the P for ports a 4 out of 5 star rating. And that brings us to S. S is for staff or for crew. And folks, hear me when I tell you, the Enchantment of the Seas has some of the best crew that I've ever sailed with. The crew has been absolutely fantastic. They have been the best part of this cruise. Everyone that I've interacted with in the crew has been so nice. They've been so accommodating. They've gone out of their way multiple times to help me and others, just to ensure that we have such a great cruise vacation. If you've watched my videos and you know my preferences, you know that I love celebrity cruises. I love to go on a celebrity cruise. I feel like Celebrity Cruises has some of the best crew and the best service. They just cater to you so much and treat you so well on Celebrity Cruises. Well, I feel like the crew here on board Enchantment of the Seas met that celebrity standard even. They blew every other cruise experience that wasn't celebrity out of the water for me. The crew was fantastic. I can't say enough good words about the crew. My room steward was fantastic. Every time I walked out of the room, he was usually in the hallway hard at work, and he would greet me and ask me how things were. Kept things very clean and tidy in my room. All of the dining staff that I interacted with, especially in Chop's Grill, when I went to Chop's Grill the couple of times, one for dinner and one for lunch, they were absolutely fantastic. So I think the cruise really makes this ship what it is. They really give this ship life. They really take a 25-year-old ship and make it something incredible that you want to come back to, because I'd come back on the Enchantment of the Seas, and the crew is a big part of why. So I can't give enough praise to the crew for how wonderful they have been, and I mean that with all sincerity. They were fantastic this cruise, and I was pleasantly surprised by that. Not that I expected there to be you know, bad service or anything like that, but they were just so good. Big kudos to the crew, and they are giving a solid 5 out of 5, and if I gave more than that, they'd get a 900, but 5 out of 5 stars for the crew. So averaging all that together, the 5 steps that we've gone through, that brings the total score for this cruise, my rating, a solid 4 out of 5 star rating for my cruise here on board the Enchantment of the Seas. It has been a fantastic cruise. It far exceeded the expectations I had for it, and I would 100% return to sail on this ship again. A lot of you have already written me messages and written comments on my embarkation day video and told me that you were coming and you're gonna have a fantastic time. Look forward to an incredible experience. Bring lots of extra cash, because you're gonna wanna give these folks that work here on board a lot of tips, a lot of gratuities, because they work so hard and they're some of the best crew that I've ever sailed with. So I don't think I can say any more about how great this cruise was. Again, pleasantly surprised with this entire cruise experience. And now I want to say thanks to you. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you have enjoyed it and found it informative. If you have, please go down below, give me a thumbs up, as it does help out not only my video but my channel. And check that you're subscribed down below. Make sure you subscribe, because I do have more videos coming from my experience here on board Enchantment of the Seas, and I know you're going to want to see those. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you on the next adventure.